I've got some troubling news about England's royal family.
4 minutes was all it took for a private royal dispute to become something far more dangerous. Catherine believed the argument over Meghan's place inside the monarchy had been settled long ago. Then one message reached her at Windsor, carrying a title linked directly to Diana, and a request nobody expected Meghan to make. Catherine read the words twice. Her expression hardened, and before the room could recover, she demanded to know who had allowed it to get this far. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Catherine, Princess of Wales, had been preparing for a family meeting when the message reached her. She read the demand again. Meghan wanted a path back into royal life, through recognition tied to the historic Princess of Wales identity once carried by Diana. The Princess of Wales is the title traditionally given to the wife of the heir to the British throne, and Catherine now holds it beside William. That made the request feel less symbolic and more like a challenge to her place, marriage, and children's future. Catherine lowered the page and asked, with frightening calm, "Who approved this reaching us?" William heard the change in her voice immediately. This was not ordinary frustration. Diana was his mother. The title was now carried by his wife, and any attempt to blur those lines struck directly at 2 generations of the family. Catherine had spent years carrying that role under pressure. Now Meghan appeared to be using Diana's memory to reopen a royal door. William took the message and read the wording himself. It was not a casual request. It was a structured case for renewed ceremonial recognition, written carefully enough to suggest Meghan had not shaped it alone. Ceremonial recognition means public acknowledgement through events or traditions without granting constitutional power. That distinction made Catherine uneasy, because the proposal seemed symbolic, while creating a powerful association. Catherine noticed the timing. The request had arrived just before a commemoration connected to Diana, when emotion around the late princess would be intense. She understood the danger. If the palace rejected Meghan then, the refusal itself could become part of the story. If it hesitated, the symbolism could grow beyond control. William looked at Catherine and lowered his voice. Meghan, he warned, might not be the only person behind the move. The language carried traces of an argument, one that began during a family exchange months earlier. Catherine's anger explained the explosion, but to understand why Meghan would risk provoking her, the story had to move inside the 2 women's relationships with Diana's legacy. The title was only a few words. The emotions behind it stretched across years. Catherine had inherited expectations that once followed Diana everywhere. Meghan had entered the same family, believing she understood what those expectations could destroy. Both women had spoken through actions, choices, distance, and silence. Now Diana's legacy had become the center of their conflict, and neither woman saw the argument as merely ceremonial. For Catherine, it was protection. For Meghan, it was unfinished business. William closed the door after Catherine's outburst and sat beside her without speaking. She was still angry, but beneath that anger sat something deeper. Catherine, Princess of Wales, did not see the role as a trophy she had won. The Princess of Wales is the title traditionally associated with the wife of the heir to the throne, but for her it carried the weight of William, George, Charlotte, Louis, and the memory of Diana. She told him she could survive criticism, rivalry, and personal attacks. What she could not accept was his mother's name being used as leverage against their children's future. Catherine looked at William and said, Diana should have been the one person capable of connecting the brothers, not the name that finally divided their wives. He understood exactly what she meant. Harry's bond with his mother was deeply personal, but William carried that grief too. The difference was that Catherine now lived inside the public role, once attached to Diana, while Meghan stood outside the working monarchy and saw that same legacy from a completely different place. Meghan spoke to Harry with equal conviction. She told him the palace had controlled Diana's memory for too long, shaping when her name could be used and who could represent her publicly. Harry listened, uneasy. Diana was his mother before she was ever a royal symbol, and every argument around her still carried pain. Meghan believed their independent life had not erased that connection. To her, it made it even more important. Meghan then pointed to one phrase inside her proposal: continuity of Diana's unfinished public legacy. The wording was deliberate. It was not a direct constitutional claim, meaning it did not openly demand legal royal authority or succession rights. Instead, it appealed to emotion, memory, and public symbolism. That made the strategy harder to dismiss, because rejecting it could be framed as rejecting Diana's wider influence. Harry realized something unsettling as Meghan continued. She intended to move forward even if Catherine objected personally. He did not give clear approval, but he also did not stop her. Meghan read that silence as support. William remembered another conversation immediately. Months earlier, Meghan had already connected Diana's name with royal status in a private family exchange. At the time, he had dismissed it as frustration. Now he understood it had been the beginning. The Windsor request had only exposed the fire. The real fuse had been lit months before. During one private conversation, everyone involved would later wish had ended differently. Months before Catherine saw the request, Meghan had already tested the boundary. It happened during a private family gathering, where Diana's name surfaced unexpectedly, and the atmosphere changed almost at once. What began as a restrained conversation about legacy became a challenge over who had the right to represent that legacy publicly. Catherine tried to end it quietly. Meghan did not forget the answer, and from that evening forward, a disagreement over memory began turning into a struggle over identity. Catherine had joined William, Harry, and Meghan after a small family gathering linked to a Diana Remembrance Initiative. The initiative was meant to honor Diana's public work and keep her charitable legacy alive, not redefine royal titles. That distinction mattered, because William and Harry both carried their mother's memory, but only one household now carried the formal role once associated with her. For a few minutes, the conversation remained calm. Meghan changed the tone when she argued that Diana's influence belonged equally to both sons. She said it should never appear as though William's household alone had inherited the right to speak through that legacy. Harry listened closely. William stiffened. Catherine understood immediately where the discussion was moving. And that was when Meghan asked the question that would later become the point of no return. Meghan asked whether the Princess of Wales' legacy could ever be represented jointly through Diana's sons and their wives. Catherine placed her teacup down and held her gaze. The role is not something that can be shared. The Princess of Wales' legacy, in this context, meant the public memory and symbolic meaning attached to Diana's former title, not a separate legal office that could be divided between families. Meghan's expression changed at once. She heard exclusion in Catherine's answer. Catherine believed she had simply defended a boundary that protected her marriage, William's position, and the future of their children. The silence stretched longer than either brother expected. William finally moved the conversation away from titles, but the damage had already been done. Harry spoke to Meghan privately afterward. He warned her that William would never accept anything that seemed to weaken Catherine's position. Meghan answered that she was not asking permission to remember Diana. Harry repeated that there was a difference between honoring his mother and challenging the structure surrounding his brother's wife. Meghan did not drop the idea. According to a fictional documented account prepared after the gathering, she began exploring language that separated Diana's emotional legacy from the formal machinery of royal titles. She believed symbolic recognition might reopen a door the institution had already closed. Catherine later learned that parts of that private conversation had been written down. Suddenly, the Windsor request made sense. Her restraint ended there. That silence from months earlier was about to become a direct confrontation, and this time neither Catherine nor Meghan intended to retreat. Catherine did not send another message. She did not ask an aide to soften the language. She wanted Meghan to hear the objection directly. When the two women finally faced one another, years of restraint collapsed into a single conversation about Diana, Harry, William, loyalty, and the title Meghan had chosen to invoke. Catherine entered determined to establish a boundary. Meghan entered convinced that the boundary itself was the problem. Neither expected how personal the exchange would become. Catherine arranged the meeting privately because she knew that once courtiers became involved, the dispute would harden into palace procedure. Courtiers are senior royal staff who help manage official duties, communication, and sensitive family matters. She wanted no formal buffer between them. William stayed outside the conversation. Harry did the same. For once, neither husband could translate, defend, or soften what their wives were about to say. Catherine spoke first. She told Meghan that using the Princess of Wales' identity as a route back into royal life crossed a line she could not ignore. Diana's memory was tied to William, to their children, and to the role Catherine now carried. Meghan answered without apology. She said Catherine could hold the title, but she could not claim ownership over everything Diana represented emotionally to Harry or to the public. Meghan's refusal changed the temperature immediately. Catherine pushed her chair back and stood. "Diana's memory is not an entry pass into the monarchy," she said. Meghan remained seated for several seconds, then stood as well. She argued that the entire problem was the palace treating Diana's legacy as something controlled by rank. Catherine replied that this was not about memory. It was about turning memory into leverage. Meghan then revealed the detail Catherine had feared most. In a fictional recorded conversation, later summarized in a documented account, she confirmed that the proposal had already been discussed with people beyond the immediate family. She did not name everyone involved, but the meaning was clear. The idea was no longer trapped inside one room, and Catherine could not end it simply by demanding that Meghan withdraw. Catherine felt the danger shift. If the argument became public, millions of people would not see a technical dispute over titles. They would see Diana placed between two women and two royal households. That could reopen old divisions around William and Harry, while turning Catherine's present role into a referendum on the past. William understood the stakes when Catherine briefed him afterward. Meghan had forced the question beyond personal resentment. The prince now had to decide whether to treat the move as a family provocation or stop it through royal authority before it gathered momentum. Catherine had drawn the emotional line. Now William was about to enforce it. William's reaction was quieter than Catherine's, but far more dangerous for Meghan's plan. He did not raise his voice. He did not argue about motives. He asked one question: could the proposal create even the appearance that Catherine's position was being challenged? When the answer came back yes, the Prince of Wales stopped treating the matter as family tension. From that moment, he treated it as a boundary the monarchy itself had to defend. William understood why the issue had become so sensitive. Catherine carried the title, but his own position tied that title directly to the future of the crown. The crown, in simple terms, means the monarchy as an institution, not just the person wearing the crown. Any effort to redefine the Princess of Wales' identity could therefore affect more than one marriage. It could change how the public understood William's household, Diana's legacy, and the line between memory and official royal status. Charles was informed. Once the dispute moved beyond Catherine and Meghan, the king read the summary alone, removed his glasses, and placed them beside the file without speaking. He understood the constitutional concern, but the deeper pain was personal. Diana's name was again sitting between his sons. Charles had already watched William and Harry drift apart, and now the memory of their mother threatened to deepen that divide. William spoke to Harry directly. He told his brother that Meghan's proposal would not proceed. Harry pushed back, saying she believed the palace was punishing her for challenging its control over Diana's story. William did not accept that framing. He told Harry this was no longer a competition over who loved their mother more. It was about stopping her memory from becoming a weapon between their wives and children. Harry fell quiet, but the future king continued. William directed that no royal office, ceremonial program, Diana-related commemoration, or palace communication could recognize Meghan through the disputed designation. A ceremonial program is an official schedule of royal events and appearances, and removing recognition from those channels meant the proposal had nowhere formal to grow. Charles supported the boundary, but he warned William against turning the decision into public humiliation. The king wanted firmness without another family spectacle. He told his son that closing the door was necessary, but slamming it in Harry's face could destroy what little trust remained. William agreed on one condition. The matter ended here. It did not. The decision reached Meghan almost immediately. She understood exactly what had happened. Catherine had drawn the emotional boundary, and William had turned it into official resistance. The door was closed. Now everyone waited to see what Meghan would do after hearing the lock turn. The answer arrived without ceremony. No recognition, no compromise, no pathway through Diana's former title. Meghan stared at the message while Harry watched from across the room. For several seconds, she said nothing. Then the anger came. Not because the palace had surprised her, but because Catherine and William had acted together with absolute finality. Meghan believed they had transformed a question about Diana's legacy into a judgment on her entire place in the family. Meghan read the decision again and understood how complete it was. William had instructed royal channels not to entertain alternative forms of the same request. Royal channels are the official palace offices and communication routes used to handle formal royal matters, meaning the proposal had nowhere legitimate left to go. That mattered because Meghan was no longer fighting over wording. She was facing a closed system. Harry understood the danger immediately. Relations with William had only begun to show small signs of improvement, and another confrontation could destroy even that fragile progress. He told Meghan that pushing harder might cost more than it gained. She heard something different. To her, Catherine had personally shut the door and made clear that there was no place where Meghan could stand beside Diana's legacy without being treated as a threat. Meghan turned away from Harry, placed her phone face down, and said she would not beg the palace for belonging. She insisted that the Wales household had reduced Diana's memory to a protected symbol. Harry listened, but this time he did not remain silent. He asked whether any return built around his mother's former title was worth another rupture between brothers. Harry then said what Meghan had not expected to hear. He admitted that he had never fully supported using the Princess of Wales' legacy as leverage. In a fictional private recorded conversation, later summarized in a documented account, he explained that his earlier silence had come from uncertainty, not agreement. Meghan had read that silence as support. Now she realized she had been moving forward without the certainty she thought she had. Catherine learned of Harry's hesitation soon afterward. Her anger did not disappear, but something shifted. She began to see that defeating Meghan's proposal might not end the deeper conflict. As long as Diana's memory remained something both households competed over, another battle would always be possible. Catherine made a decision nobody expected. She would not send Meghan another warning. She would not ask William to deliver another message either. She asked to speak with Harry alone. The next move would not happen through palace offices or royal procedure. It would happen between Diana's son and the woman carrying the title his mother once held. For once, William was not in the room. Meghan was not there either. Catherine and Harry sat opposite each other with no aides, no statements, and no competing explanations between them. The anger that had driven the previous days suddenly felt different. Diana was no longer a title or strategy. She was Harry's mother. Catherine understood that before speaking. And when Harry finally admitted what had troubled him most, the conflict shifted from power toward something neither side had confronted honestly: grief. Catherine had asked for the meeting because she believed the argument could not end, while every word passed through spouses, advisors, and palace structures. Palace structures are the formal offices and staff systems that manage royal decisions, communication, and public duties. She wanted none of that between them. Harry arrived guarded, convinced she would demand that Meghan withdraw publicly and accept humiliation. Catherine surprised him almost immediately. Catherine told Harry that she had never believed Diana belonged to her. She had never believed wearing the Princess of Wales title gave her ownership of another woman's memory. The title mattered because it was tied to William's role as heir and to Catherine's place beside him. But that did not erase Harry's connection to his mother. What Catherine refused to accept was the idea that the title could become proof that one branch of Diana's family mattered more than the other. Harry listened, then admitted something he rarely said aloud. Seeing Catherine carry the title sometimes pulled him straight back into memories of Diana. It was not Catherine's fault, he said, but the words, Princess of Wales, still carried his mother's voice, her pain, and the years before everything changed. That was why the argument had cut deeper than anyone understood. Harry lowered his gaze for several seconds before speaking again. Diana should never become something William and he fought over, he said. Catherine answered quietly, Then don't let us. The sentence stripped away the anger that had shaped the previous days. Harry then acknowledged that Meghan's attempt to use Diana's former title as a route back into royal recognition had gone too far. In a fictional private conversation, later preserved in a documented account, he promised Catherine that he would tell Meghan himself. William would not deliver the message. The palace would not deliver it. Harry would. Catherine offered something in return. She said future charitable remembrance connected to Diana should make room for both sons' personal bond with their mother, without confusing that bond with formal royal titles. Harry accepted the distinction. For the first time, the conflict shifted. But the family had reached understanding too late to keep the argument private. Inside the room, the temperature finally dropped. Outside it, Diana's name was already dominating the conversation. By morning, the private argument had become a public spectacle. Catherine's fury, Meghan's attempt, Harry's hesitation, and Diana's name were suddenly being compressed into headlines designed to divide audiences into camps. Yet the strongest reaction was not about protocol. It was emotional. People remembered Diana as a mother, a princess, and a woman whose life had already been consumed by royal conflict. Watching her legacy become another battlefield made the reaction far more intense. Catherine watched the coverage with growing discomfort. Some viewers saw her as defending the integrity of her current role. Others believed Meghan had raised a fair question about who had the right to speak through Diana's wider legacy. Palace communications remained deliberately restrained. Palace communications means the official public messaging issued through royal offices. And the decision to stay quiet mattered, because one aggressive statement could turn a family dispute into an institutional war. Meghan saw the same headlines and understood that the strategy had changed shape. Her original goal had been to reopen a path toward royal relevance through Diana's symbolic legacy. Instead, the public conversation had become almost entirely about whether two women were fighting over the memory of a dead princess. Meghan realized that Diana's name was now overshadowing her own argument, making the move look far more personal than she intended. The public moment came quickly. A fictional morning front page appeared with Catherine on one side, Meghan on the other, and a black and white image of Diana between them. Across the center ran 4 words: her name, their battle. Copies were photographed outside a shop near Windsor as people stopped to read. The image spread fast, because it reduced years of tension into one painful idea. Diana was once again trapped at the center of royal conflict. Harry saw that headline and acted before the argument could grow further. He contacted William directly and said he would publicly reject any suggestion that Diana's former title should be used against Catherine. William did not celebrate. He simply told his brother that this was the line he had wanted respected from the beginning. Meghan then made her own decision. Harry had made clear that he would not support another round of conflict built around his mother. In a fictional private recorded conversation, later summarized in a documented account, she agreed not to continue the title strategy. The concession was painful, but the alternative was worse. Pushing forward without Harry would make the entire effort collapse under its own contradiction. Catherine understood the battle was effectively won, but victory suddenly felt smaller than expected. The palace had stopped the title dispute. Now Catherine faced the final choice, whether defeating Meghan was enough, or whether Diana's memory deserved an ending that left no woman standing over another. In the end, Catherine got the outcome she demanded, but the moment did not feel like victory. Meghan's attempt to use Diana's former title as a path back into royal life was withdrawn. William's boundary remained intact. Harry refused to let his mother's name become leverage against his brother's wife. Yet the deeper verdict came quietly. Diana's memory could survive only if the people connected to her stopped treating that memory as territory to be claimed. Meghan formally abandoned the attempt. The proposal was not delayed, revised, or moved into another royal channel. It was finished. The Princess of Wales' legacy, meaning the public memory attached to Diana's former title, would not be used as a path back into formal royal standing. Catherine remained secure in her role, and William made clear privately that no alternative version of the title would be recognized through palace structures. Catherine later told William that humiliation had never been her goal. She had been furious because the dispute touched their marriage, their children, and the role she carried beside him. Diana's name had become connected to George, Charlotte, Louis, and the future William was expected to lead. Catherine could defend that position without pretending she owned the woman who came before her. Meghan reached her own conclusion with more difficulty. She still believed the institution had drawn lines around Diana's legacy too tightly, but she accepted that invoking the former title had created something larger and more painful than she intended. Most importantly, the strategy had crossed a boundary for Harry. Harry spoke to Meghan privately after the decision. He told her he would always defend her when he believed she was being treated unfairly, but he would not allow either side of the family to turn his mother into a weapon. Meghan listened without interrupting. After everything that had happened, she quietly agreed to let the title argument end. Catherine then kept the promise she had made to Harry. She supported a future Diana Remembrance initiative that acknowledged both brothers' personal connection to their mother, while keeping formal royal titles completely separate. A remembrance initiative is simply an organized effort to honor someone's life or charitable work. The distinction mattered. William could remain secure in his household's royal role, while Harry could honor Diana without creating another fight over rank. The verdict was finally clear. Catherine had not won because Meghan lost. She had won because she defended her place without claiming ownership of Diana. Meghan's attempted return through the title was over. Harry had drawn a line around his mother's memory, and William accepted it. The family was not suddenly whole again. But this battle was finished. And when the doors finally closed on the dispute, the strongest message was not about rank, succession, or ceremony. It was that Diana's name had carried enough conflict for one lifetime. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.